Hello and welcome to another God Sized Hobbies episode. I'm very blessed. I have Meg with us today. Meg, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Meg Fitzpatrick, and what kind of things do you want to know about me? I'm a mom. I have two kids, one who recently got married and is moving to Virginia, which makes me very sad. And the other one is 17 and graduated high school early and hasn't a clue what she wants to do with her life.
Awesome. I just realized you guys are starting to transition that into now empty nest.
We kind of are empty nest right now, as my daughter is in Arizona helping my brother with his twins, and it is a weird feeling.
Uh-huh.
We look at each other going, what do we do now?
Well, I'm super excited to continue the hobby series. Tell us, what is your hobby?
My hobby is crocheting, which is different than knitting.
Okay. Explain. Let's start by explaining the difference between those two things.
Sure. Crocheting is one hook. So the joke is I'm a hooker by night. Uh, and then knitting, has two long stem pointed needles. So yeah, they're not as fun of a nickname.
So, how did you start this hobby?
I actually started by God telling me to. It was kind of a weird thing. I was in Mom's and they were talking, and this was probably 10 years ago. And they were saying they wanted people to bring in scarves for the homeless. And it was just like this voice in my head that said, you're going to make those. And I'm like, I don't do anything. How am I supposed to make this?
Listen.
Growing up, my grandmother and my mom both knitted and crocheted. And so I went to my mom. I said, which one's easier? And she said, well, crocheting is easier, I think. But I don't know if I remember how to do that. So I got to be in her book. And she kind of remembered how to start it, showed me how to start it. And then from there, I just watched YouTube videos and learned a lot through YouTube videos. Oh, yeah. And then about 5 years ago, discovered my mom's cousin crochets. And we connected through Facebook Messenger. And she's helped me really grow. And like if I get stuck and can't understand something, she helps me figure it out and understand how to read the patterns and things like that.
What's the biggest thing you've crocheted?
A blanket for myself. It's probably the size of a double-sized bed.
Wow.
It took me 3 years.
I bet. Oh man.
Yeah.
How does God provide rest through crochet?
I'm able to just, it sounds silly, but check out. Mm-hmm. When the world is kind of busy around me and I'm feeling a little frazzled, when I start crocheting, it just seems to just melt away. And some things that I'm making, like currently I'm making a gift for a baby nephew, and I'm able to just pray while I'm praying for the babies, praying for their future. And so I'm able to just take time and rest that way. It calms me. Mm-hmm. So
the prayer leads me into a really good transition to the next question too, of like, how does God grow you in ways through crocheting?
Multiple ways. One is through the prayer, just taking the time to pray. And I've made a couple items where I've prayed for whoever I'm giving it to before I package it up and give it to them. And sometimes while I'm making it, I pray for that person too, if I know who I'm making it for.
Right.
And I used to make them for a donation place where they give them to babies in the NICU. Oh. And so I pray for that baby. So the other way that God has grown me through that is I started teaching middle school kids how to crochet, and a parent. She's like, can I learn too? And so for several months we would meet once a week and I would teach them how to crochet. And I've seen a couple of the girls actually make some really cool items. So it's just kind of that community part of God that is really neat to see.
And I've noticed at other places and seasons, I've seen people do things like crocheting during church and other things to help them focus. Is that something that you do as well?
It sure is. I have a tendency to people watch.
Oh, yeah.
And I worry about what people are thinking and doing and seeing. And so when I'm crocheting, I have to look down at what I'm doing, or I put the hook in the wrong hole and then I mess up. I still mess up even though I am looking. But I'm able to then to focus. I pick items that are easy to make, that don't require counting, that don't require thinking. And then I can focus on what the pastor is saying during the sermon, and it really helps. I know a lot of people have ADHD, so they've tried doing things like that, and it helps them. So my daughter will sometimes also be making things during church alongside me and helping her to focus and keeps her off her phone.
I've talked about this with friends in the past. Especially, I need stuff like that at different times in life where I need something to distract myself from distracting myself. And it uses such a small portion of my brain that it will take over my entire brain if I don't distract it. And so when I see people in it, I'm like, I know what they're doing. I know what's going on in their brain.
Very true. Very true.
So the final question we'll wrap up with, and you've kind of referenced a couple of them already. What are opportunities you've had for either fellowship or outreach with crocheting?
Yeah, so the outreach would be teaching others. And I've had a couple of friends want to learn, and I've had friends who's like, oh, I forgot how to do that, or I got stuck on this, and I didn't know how to finish what I was making. I'm able to help them complete their project. But it's really a good opportunity to talk to people I'm in public, because I take it with me, like when my daughter would go to doctor appointments, and I'd sit in the waiting room and crochet, and I would start conversation with people. They're, what are you making? Who are you making that for? And so it always gave an opportunity, especially the ones when I'm making the blankets for the NICU babies. It gives a great opportunity of, this is what I'm making it for, or things like that. So that's where I find a lot of the outreach opportunity. I mean, even when I go on women's retreats, I bring it with, and I know I'm not the only one, which is kind of cool. And then we compare what we have and what we're making, and what our who our projects are for, what our projects are for, how big our projects are. And so we create a little community within a big community that way also, which is kind of fun.
And that's a huge key of fellowship, is being able to build that small community of trusted people.
Yeah.
Well, Meg, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing crocheting with me. I was so excited when I was coming down with the list of people and trying to think of the not so obvious ones, because a lot of it's like there's ones that a lot of people have, but I was like trying to be like, who do I know that does something different? And I was like, oh, as I said, I've seen you in church. I'm like, ooh, that's a good one, because God makes us unique. He makes us all different. He gives us different talents, and I get excited to see people that use those talents for him and for helping focus and for helping love on these babies that you're talking about. Like, that's awesome. Like, that brings me joy. That brings me comfort to know that other things are out there.
Yeah.
So
it's a very enjoyable hobby to have, and it's one that you can travel with or stay home with. And that's also another perk of being able, and you can gift to people at very low cost.
Well, Meg, thank you so much again. And audience, thank you as always for listening. I couldn't do this without you. Goodbye.